So when we say that classes and object, okay, class is actually a blueprint. Class is a blueprint. If you ask me, sir, what you mean by blueprint? Class is a blueprint. Generally people say about what is class. Class is a blueprint. The people say class is a blueprint, and we say object is an instance of a class. A simple definition what people say. But I don't want people to remember like this. People say class is a blueprint. Object is a instance of a class. Object is an instance of a class. Object is an instance of class. Yes, okay. So why do we call this? What is the reason behind it? See, whenever we say a class, class is something which just gives us an idea. It says, boss, this is what it is. Okay, so when I say that before constructing a house, you'll be having something called as blueprint. Will be something called blueprint. The blueprint actually says here is where the living area must come. Here is where the bedroom must come. Here is where the master bedroom must come. Here must where the kitchen must come. So you'll get some idea. Just like that, this class gives us an idea how exactly the code must look. That's all about the class. The class will give an idea. But if you really want the class to be in existence, you want the real world entity. You want the class to be really, the house to be really built. Okay, just by keeping the blueprint, can you do housewarming ceremony? People will laugh at you. They say class is a blueprint. You're having a blueprint, then you're doing the housewarming ceremony. How would that be possible? If you really want to call for the housewarming ceremony, or you really want to utilize your house, you want to utilize the facilities of your house, you need to construct your house. Constructing the house mean to say that you are building an object. Simple, very simple. The class is an idea. Object is real world entity. Simple. So whenever we have a class, we need to convert that class to an object. That is very important. Just a class doesn't make any sense. You need to create an object of a class. Sir, you told class is a blueprint. Yes. What the blueprint will have? Blueprint will be having some idea. It says what exactly the class is containing about. Okay. Then we will learn how to create a class and what all the class contains. Whenever I say the class will be having two things. One is called as state. See, this is common with all the programming languages. I'm not specific to Python. This is there all over the world in all the programming languages. It is quite common. You have to remember like this at all in entire your software development life cycle. In entire your software engineering life, you have to remember like this itself. The class has two things. One is state and the other one is behavior. The class has two things. One is state, other one is behavior. If you ask me, sir, what is this state and what is this behavior? State mean to say that it is data and the data types. The data and the data types is maintained as states. Sir, what is behavior? Behaviors are nothing but the functions or the actions. Actions or the functions are called as behaviors. Okay. Sir, example again. Whenever I say age of a person, this is a state. It's just giving us some information. Gender of the person is just giving some information. Okay. Then height of a person, it is giving some information. All these must be represented as the data and the data types. All these are the data and it is following the data. Background is a data type. This is called a state. When I say some action, okay, the person play, it's an action. The person run, it's an action. So whenever I say action, this has to be defined as functions in all the programming languages. So the class has two things. One is state and the other one is behavior, right? Okay, one is state, other one is behavior. This is what you need to understand. Fine. So we have two things, as I told you, state and the behavior. So whenever we define a class, the class must understand that it is having the state, and one more thing is behavior. Okay. So state is the data type, something like age, gender, height. Behavior is like play and run. We'll take a lot of examples to understand how exactly the class must contain. Okay. For example, let me say that we are working on an animal class. So what all will be the state of the animal? Okay, so animal state would be something like age, gender, same as example, age, gender, then height, okay, then color, name, all these are the state. So while defining a class in programming language, whenever I say it has data like this, it has to be a state. Oh, then what is the behavior? The behavior is run, animal run. Sleep, animal sleep. Eat, animal eat. Walk, all these must be defined as functions. This must be the data and the data type. This must be the function. This is what you need to understand. Let me take one more example, which is something with respect to car. I'm defining a car program. Okay, car, again when I say car class, which is having something like name of the car, color of the car, okay, then registration number of the car. All these will become your data and the data type. And car, in car we can drive, we can sit, we can sleep. All these are called as functions in the car. So let me say that a bank example. I take a bank example. When I define a bank, okay, bank, then what we need to see is the bank is having what? Account number, okay, the name of the bank, okay, and the balance, then the phone number of the customer. All these are the data. What is the action? Withdraw amount, credit, transfer, block credit card. All these are actions. So this is quite common in any one of the programming languages. Whenever you define a class, always keep in your mind, it is common, always you keep in your mind, wherever you're defining a programming, when they always you must understand that actions must be defined as functions, and the data and the data type must be the state. So before designing a class, you must keep in your mind what all the data which is present and what all the function which has to be present. Creating a calculator application, so class calculator, you're creating a class by name calculator. So what would be the states? A, B, C, D, E are the states, which are the variables. What would be the action? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, finding exponential, finding logarithmic, finding trigonometric activity. All these are the actions. Actions must be the functions. This is about the common thing what we need to understand about the class. Okay, so class is having the state and the behavior. Till now, whenever we create a class, nothing exists. Nothing exists. So what happens is when we define a class, internally you need to create an object. Only then it comes into existence. So how to create an object? What happens when we create an object? That we'll be seeing now. So as defined, when we say class is a blueprint, right? So class is a blueprint. We understood whenever we use a class has two things. One is called as state and the other one is called as behaviors. The class has state and the class has behavior, right? So class has state and behavior. The state must be the data and the data type, and the behaviors are nothing but the functions. So this is what we understood. Behaviors are nothing but the functions. So whenever we define a class, we must always keep in mind that the state, the data and the data type must be defined as a state, and the function must be created as a behaviors, or behaviors must be converted as functions, either of the way. Fine. So whenever we create a class, it does not mean to say that there is some existence. The class is just an idea. As I told you, just an idea. Let me say that I'll create a class. I'll create a class by name animal. Class animal. This is how the syntax in Python looks like. Class animal, just like a function. Open the flower bracket, and I say that we are creating something like name of the animal. Okay, I say name of the animal, and name is equal to space. So when I say age of the animal, age is equal to space, which is 0. By default, the integer will follow 0, and by default, the name, the string will be the space. Okay, then I say name age, then I say height of the animal. Okay, height of the animal, something like this, which is 0. Okay, so I'll create some action. What are the actions? The actions are the functions. I say def run. Okay, def run. One more important thing what we need to understand is whenever we are defining the function inside the class, very important, most of the people who are new to Python does this mistake. Whenever we create a function inside the class, the first argument must be self. The first argument must always be self whenever we create a function inside a class. Why self is required, that I'll be telling you. But whenever we create a function inside the class, the first argument must be self. So I write it as print animal is running. I just say animal is running. Okay, simple function. I say animal is running. Let me understand this. Okay, so I'll just write this code and I'll close it. I'll just close this. So I'll close the code. Now class is constructed. But when the compiler sees this class animal, it will not do anything. It will not do anything because, as I told you, it is just an idea. It is just an idea. It says, oh, there's something called as animal. Animal is having something like name, age, and height. Okay, and it is having the run function. That is what understands. Oh, it really want to be in existence, then what you must do, you must create an object of the class. When you get object of the class, how to create an object? Just call the animal, just call the animal here, just call animal here, then give it a name, which is something like a1. So when I do this, automatically animal object is created, it is referred as a1. So what happens in this case? What happens here is, inside the compiler memory, okay, inside the compiler memory, let me say compiler memory, there's something called a stack space in the heap space. Okay, the stack space in the heap space. Okay, so when I create an object, like this, the reference would be given in the stack, which says a1 is there, something by name a1 is there, and it is referred to an actual object of a class like this. Okay, it just give a reference like this. A1 would be pointing like this. Okay, now what will be there in the space? Because you created an object, the reference is there a1, and what will be there here? The name will be there here. A separate space would be created for name. And age, the age will be there here. The separate space will be created for age. Okay, then height would be created here. The separate space would be created for height. Similarly, a function would be created by name what? By name run. All this would be happening. Okay, so when I create one more object by name a2 is equal to animal, then what happens? One more object of animal got created. This is again a2. This a2. Okay, so what happens here? Again the memory would be created separately for this a2. So what all will be there here? The name will be there here, then age will be there here, then height will be there here. Okay, if I want to access this a1's name, how to do? I can do something like a1 dot name. If you want to access age of animal, that is which animal? A1's animal. So I say a1 dot age. So this space is different, reserved for a1. This space is different, reserved for a2. So if I give something like a3 is equal to a2, then what happens? You're actually pointing this a2 object and giving a new reference, that's it. So here a3 would be created and it will be linking to the same a2 itself. If you want to create an object, then you have to give a class name and the name for it. How many number of objects can be created? N number of objects can be created. Okay, sir, what is this self then? What is this self? The self is something which says that I'm accessing the classes variable. Mean to say that this is a class variable. Name, age, height is the class variable. That is, it is defined inside the class and outside the function. So it is called as a class variable. So you mean to say there is a chance for us to create a variable inside the functions also? Yes, you can create a variable inside function also. Let me say that I'm creating a variable by name speed is equal to 0. This speed is not there inside the class. It will not be there here. Rather, it will be there inside the run function. So if you want to access, I repeat, if you want to access the class variable, then you must always use self. Sir, what do you mean by that? I mean to say, if you want to tell your animal name, you must say print, inside run function, I say print animal, comma, self dot name. Self dot name is running. Correct? Self dot name is running. Mean to say that animal, then I put a comma and I say is running. So when I say is running, what you need to understand here is, in the bracket, the self dot name will be referring to the class's name and not the function's name. Whenever we say self dot, it understands that I must look for the class variable and not for the function variable. That is the reason the first argument is always self. There is a concept called as constructor, which I'll be telling later, but as of now you understand, whenever you create a class and you create a function, the first argument must be self always inside the function. Why self? To access the class variable, we require the self. So how many objects can be created? N number of objects can be created. As and then the number of objects gets created, as and then the space gets utilized. Okay, sir, we created an object, but how the object gets created? when you're not accessing the object, when you're not accessing the objects for some time, we have something called as garbage collector. We have something called as garbage collection. Automatically, there's something called as garbage collector, which is called as GC package. Okay, the garbage collector, where we must not worry about it. This garbage collector will see that this particular object does not being used, then automatically the garbage collector will keeps on deleting the memory as and then required. This is the functionality where we are not bothered about unless and until we're working on Python and any other programming languages, which is OOPS oriented programming language. Because when we are working on the C programming, we are very much worried about the locations. Memory address was very much important. We must delete the memory. But since you're working on the programming languages like Python, okay, we are not worried about deleting the memory. The garbage collector will come and take the responsibility to delete the memory. This is how actually whenever we say class, an object is created in the memory. I wanted you to understand how machine is being given a memory to it. Okay, then how the object gets created internally. I want you people to imagine. This is how you must learn. Okay, and one more thing is, depending upon the data type, the data would be defined. For example, are given age is equal to 0, inside age equal to 0, int memory is declared. So space required is 2 bytes would be given. So when I say something like float value, then 4 bytes would have been given. I'm not worried about it because as we already discussed, in Python, we are not worried about the data types. We are worried about the data structures. So let's not worry about it. But what happens internally is whenever I create an animal class, in the backend, nothing exists unless and until an object is created. How to create an object? A1 is equal to animal. This is how we start creating an object in Python programming. So let me go with practicals. I created a class by name class animal. So class animal, and I created something like name is equal to Ruby. Okay, and age is equal to 10. Okay, then def sleep. I created a function by name sleep. Okay, and as I told you, the first argument must be self always. So it is self. So we say dog is sleeping. Okay, def play, and the self animal is sleeping. Okay, so let me make this very generic. I'll make it as animal. Okay, animal is sleeping. So I'll just run this. When I run this, what happens? Nothing happens. Okay, why nothing happened? Because you just created a class, but you didn't create an object. You wanted to actually create an object of this class. So if you want to create an object of this class, how to create an object? Very simple. A equal to animal. This is how you create an object. So when I say A equal to animal, an object is created by name animal. Okay, so now how can we start using that object, whatever is present inside that class, using the reference? What reference? A. So how to do? Print a dot name, print a dot age. So when I do this, automatically the age and the name will be created. So a dot sleep, yes, when I say a dot sleep, yes, sleep is get called. A dot play, yes, play is getting called. This is what we need to understand. We can call the attributes and behavior of the class with the object name. So this is how we created a simple class. Very important. You have to be always maintaining the indentation in Python. If you're not leaving this indentation right, if you're not leaving the space like this, it's a big mistake. The Python compiler will not accept and it will show you an error. It says, boss, you're not careful about the indentation. It's an error. So I always say that indentation is very important in Python programming. Fine. Okay. So now I understand one more thing. I'm creating a sleep function. This sleep function, again, I must leave indentation, 2 indentation. 1 indentation for the class and 1 indentation for the sleep function. So 2 indentation has been left here. Okay. So be very careful with the indentation in Python. Okay. Good. How many objects can we create? We can create multiple objects for the same class. We can call it as an instance. So we always call object is an instance of a class. And class is an instance of an object, right? Class is an instance of, like, as and then we create number of objects. It keeps on multiplicating. Correct? Fine. So now how can we actually call dynamically? For example, so here you have mentioned something like age is equal to 15. Age is equal to 10. And we are given something like name is equal to Ruby. But can I change the age? Can I change the name? Yes. You can use the object name and you can change the age and you can change the name. How? Very simple. Okay, you created an object, right? So now we have created A equal to animal. You can say A dot age is equal to 15. So age gets changed. As simple as that. Okay, so rather than you have created previously static, can I make it dynamic? Yes, just leave a blank space. How? I created class animal. I created class animal and I said name is equal to space, age is equal to 0. It's a blank. Now it's up to you that you can give the name after creating an object. You can give the name after creating an object. This is what you need to understand. See, I have created one more function by name sleep here. Yes, and I given as animal is sleeping and name of the animal is self dot name. Sir, why this self dot name? Here the interpreter understands I must call my name, that is my object's name. If you're not given any object's name, I'll call blank, or else you can say a dot name is equal to some Ruby, a dot name is equal to Mickey. Whatever you want you can give, provided when I say self dot name, it understands that it is the variable called within a class. These are the class variables. Understand, whatever is defined outside the function inside the class are called as class variable. Whatever defined inside the function are called as local variable. I repeat, whatever the variables present inside the functions are called as local variable. Whatever the variables which is defined outside the function inside the class are called as class variables. The class variables must always be called using self dot. It is self must always be appended. Okay, it must always be there. It must always be there whenever you call the classes variable. So I say self dot name. So it looks into it. Now when I say class animal, I create an animal object. I say a is equal to animal, a dot sleep, a dot play. You understand? Animal is sleeping and name of the animal is nothing, blank. Why blank? Why blank? Because you're not given anything. Okay. Animal is playing. Age of animal is 0. Good. That's it. Fantastic. Okay. But now, sir, I need to give a name for the animal. Very simple. You create an object of a, object of animal, a equal to animal. Now do a dot age and now do a dot name and say a dot sleep, a dot play. Okay. When I run this, what happens? It says animal is sleeping and name of animal is Chimpu. Sir, how come is it possible? How come is answering here? No, animal is sleeping and name of animal is self dot name. Sir, where did we get this self dot name? You created an object by name a. Okay, then you did a dot name equal to. Okay, then you say like a dot sleep. So a's name is Chimpu. So what is happening in the backend here? That is what you need to understand. Okay, I try to represent this. What is happening in the memory? Just concentrate. So we created an animal object. So in the memory, what happens? Inside the compiler memory, a stack variable is created. So it is having something like a stack variable which is having only the references. Heap memory is actually having an object. So I say here as a. So when I represented a, this a is represented actual class. The class is having something like name. Okay, the class is having something like a name variable. The class is this object, the space is having something called as age variable, and the sleep is having something like a sleep function and the play function. Sleep function and the play function. This space is specifically for A1 or A. It is specifically for A. Okay, no, nothing else. If you create one more object, then one more space gets created. One more name A sleep play will be there. So this is representing for this. Now we are told a dot name. So name is given as Chimpu. Okay, Chimpu. Fine. So now what happens? So when I say a dot name, it will go to a, it sees name, or it is Chimpu, then it will say, oh, Chimpu is playing, Chimpu is sleeping. This is how it is. If you create one more object by name A1, and if you can give name for A1, okay, let it be something like Ruby. Okay, Ruby. Now when you say A1 dot name, you'll be getting something called as Ruby, because this is for Ruby. Because this is there inside the class variable, that you need to understand, is there inside the class variable. Okay, when it is, what do you mean by, sir? It is having something like function variable. Function variable mean to say that you don't require a self. Sir, example for that is, see, I have a sleep function here. Okay, sleep function here. I just put something like number of hours equal to sleep for 8 hours. Let me say, I say animal is sleeping and name of animal is self dot name, comma. Okay, I'll put a comma and say it sleeps for. Okay, then I put a comma and say how many hours? Number of hours. Then I'll put a comma and say hours. See, I'm calling number of hours. For this number of hours, I'm not telling self dot. Why? because this number of hours is not a class variable, it's a function variable. Let me run this now. See, we're able to call. But when I say self dot name, when I don't give name, when I don't give self dot for this name, it shows error. It says, boss, I am a class variable. You must always say self dot. But when I say something like number of us, it is not a class variable, it's a function variable, so no self is required. This is very important. Most of the people will confuse and they don't understand this. Okay, there's accessibility. Next concept what we do, okay, in later sessions, there's something called as polymorphism. Okay, then we have something like data abstraction. Okay, in that case you will understand encapsulation and abstraction. In encapsulation ways you'll understand why is it required. Okay, what is local variable, what is global variable, that I'll be teaching you, don't worry. Okay, but this is about something where with a function variable is there, no need to call with self. When it does not have a function variable, then self is required. This is what you need to understand. This is what you need to understand. The next concept is all again constructors, about constructors, which I think we can take in the next session. Okay, but this is about the classes and the objects. This is how we need to create a class and we need to create an object.